Okay, hello, welcome everyone to the fourth webinar in the new barn raising webinar series. Today's topic is leveraging community talent. My name is Gareth Potts. I'm basically the guy who set the webinar series up, so I've been sending you lots of emails to promote the webinars. I also run a non-profit organization called the New Barn Raising, and it has a website, thenewbarnraising.com, that has uh, all the material on it is free, and it's lots of practical advice around ways to sustain community and civic assets, so parks, libraries, theatres, museums, art galleries, that kind of thing. So I hope you can find some time to take a look at that at some stage. In terms of today's focus, presentations from two very differing contexts. So on the one hand, a public library system in a very large city, so San Jose in California, and on the other, a non-profit volunteer-run museum in a small country town in Australia. So that's Berrima in New South Wales in Australia. However, both of the presentations will be highlighting the important contribution that skilled volunteers can play in sustaining these type of assets. And both of the presentations will also be asking how, in very practical terms, that contribution can be facilitated. Kicking off the San Jose presentation is Jill Bourne, who is the city librarian. Jill oversees the Martin Luther King Library, that's run jointly with San Jose State University, as well as 22 branches of the city's library system, so serving a population of about 1 million people. She's also directed projects in partnership with the Institute of Museum and Library Services, notably one around digital media skills for young people in San Francisco. She serves on the Urban Libraries Council Executive Board and has had recognition from that council for her work on environmentalism promotion, notably the Green Stacks program. Jill also serves on the American Libraries Association Committee on Literacy. She is a library journal mover and shaker, and at an international level, she is a mentor for the International Network of Emerging Library Innovators, which is a Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation initiative. And in the past, she's also held senior posts in the San Francisco and Seattle public libraries. Joining Jill are two colleagues. John Warona is the division manager for technology and innovation at the library. And as the name suggests, he deals with pretty much everything technical, electronics, information technology, the web-related issues. John has 16 years experience in this type of work. He's been with the library for about 1.5 years now, and prior to that spent 7 years at San Francisco Public Library, so another large urban library. He led on various initiatives there, such as overseeing the technology aspects of a very large teen center. The final member of the San Jose team is Maddie Walton Hadlock. Maddie is the early education manager at the library. And she also, in that role, she coordinated the Summer Reading Challenge, and that is the main case study in the San Jose presentation today. She too is a library journal mover and shaker, and having been recognized for her community engagement work. And it will be John and Maddie who will be fielding the questions at the end, along with Harlan, and both John and Maddie are also presenting as well. So Harlan is talking about his work with Berrima District Museum. His name was recommended to me by the organisation Museums and Galleries New South Wales. They said his sort of work was an excellent example of working with volunteers. There's a very good presentation by Harlan on fundraising on their website. If you just Google his name, you can find that. He's a mechanical engineer by education, although the bulk of his career has been spent in senior project management roles. He was born and raised in the United States, although has been in Australia for 45 years and has been a citizen for about 25 years. In the past, he's been general manager of the Sydney Maritime Museum, which is now the Sydney Heritage Fleet, and he's also run the Museum of Applied Arts and Sciences, also known as the Powerhouse, and both of those organisations had volunteering as central elements. Harlan has been active on both state and local arts bodies. And just a couple of months ago, he was nominated the Winge Carriby Shire Citizen of the Year for 2015, and he received that award for his work with the museum and the volunteer management with the museum. Without further ado now, I'm going to pass you over to the San Jose team, who are going to talk to you about their work.
Today we're going to be talking about how organizations can develop a strategy that effectively expands your resources by leveraging the skills and abilities of partners in the community, while at the same time creating a greater impact for the public you serve and building your advocacy base. First, some introductions. We are from San Jose, which is a city that is a little bit inland from the central coast of California. With a population of 1 million, it is the third largest city in California and the 10th largest in the US. San Jose is also the capital of Silicon Valley, an international technology sector, with a high level of innovation and creativity and high expectations around the use of technology to simplify our lives and facilitate growth and opportunity. The major library system in the city is the San Jose Public Library. We have a large main library that is operated in partnership with San Jose State University, and we have 22 branches with the 23rd in construction. Our branches range in size from 6,000 to about 30,000 square feet, and the main library is about 360,000 square feet. Despite the fact that our libraries are beautiful facilities and are beloved by their neighborhoods, we have extremely limited resources and have to be very creative and efficient when we seek to improve or expand services to our community. So I'm Jill Bourne. I'm the director of San Jose Public Library and city librarian for San Jose. And I'm going to be joined today by two of our most excellent leaders within the library, John Verona and Maddie Walton-Hadlock. I'm going to be talking about our strategic approach to partnering and gaining access to community assets. And John and Maddie will describe a specific example that illustrates this approach. We will pause periodically to highlight some of our lessons learned and our top tips for pursuing these kinds of high-profile, high-impact partnerships. So as I mentioned earlier, our organization is in a situation in which we have a drive and an expectation that we will provide innovative, responsive services to our communities. And yet we are in a resource-restricted environment, which most environments are in some way restricted. So these are a few of the reasons why our library established a strategic priority of partnering as a means of expanding our capacity for providing relevant and timely services to our public. But there are many more reasons and benefits to this approach, which I think will come out as we talk today. So briefly, our approach to partnering starts with recognizing that there are different types of partnerships. Some are opportunity-based, like something that comes up even if it wasn't in your plans. Some are occasional, which is a partnership that is tied to a specific goal or outcome. It may be a one-off or even repeated. Or a partnership may be foundational, which could be something like our city-university partnership, which is part of everything that we do. Each has its own benefits and requirements, but all require some level of asset sharing and leveraging, and this is how we start our approach. When we approach a partnership, it's important to think in terms of what your assets you have and what you need. Many organizations, including libraries, forget that we have extensive assets to offer, even with big tech companies or smaller local entities, and that while it is great to have an organization come and offer you straight out cash money, it is not as likely as often, not within your control, that will happen. Assets can be things like, in the case of libraries, facilities in every neighborhood, resources and information. We have collections and technology and lots of connections. Infrastructure and a service model for sharing information. We have fabulous staff who are skilled at solving problems. And most importantly, we have the public's trust and public use. So by partnering with us, an entity can have access to our users and can leverage our good reputation and the fact that people trust us. So when you are leveraging your assets, you do need to ensure that partnerships can have a level of mission and values alignment, or at least the ability to avoid misalignment. So our first tip is to understand your assets and those that you need. I recommend actually doing an asset inventory and even an asset mapping, so you can identify those gaps that you might want to look for in potential partners. Assets can be any capital holdings from funding sources, buildings, equipment, vehicles, etc.? Do you have human resources? Do you have people with any unique skills, expertise, or connections? Likewise, do you have any proprietary resources and information that could be valuable to someone else? Do you have a user base, a support base that someone else, an entity in this case, would like access to? In a world based on networks, this is extremely valuable. And do you have a reputation that can be leveraged? Is your organization known for excellence in service, quality, or any other virtue? All of these create value when you look at partnering and bringing in additional resources at no cost. So understanding your assets can empower you to approach a potential partner with a good sense of what they can gain, enabling you to ask for what you need to get. Which leads to our next topic, and John and Maddie, who are going to talk about a specific case study that illustrates the process.
Hello everybody, I'm John Warona, and I'm the Division Manager for Technology and Innovation at the San Jose Public Library, and I'm going to talk about the Summer Reading Challenge as a case study and discuss partnering with a private interest to improve services and enhance impact to the community. So why is summer reading important? It's to prevent the summer learning slide. We want folks to just read 20 minutes a day. It's a proven fact that reading helps improve vocabulary and comprehension skills. Reading over the summer is critical to summer learning loss prevention, or the summer slide, among students, mainly children. By taking part in the Summer Reading Challenge and reading only 20 minutes per day, students can retain their skills and return to school ready to learn. We also wanted to engage families around reading, maybe even add an element of competition and incentive for reading. Not exactly a bribe, but just a little bit of sugar to help the medicine go down. So why use technology to infuse the Summer Reading Challenge into the daily lives of our patrons or customers? Well, we wanted to use technology to engage populations we were already trying to reach. There's a Pew Research Center study from their Internet Science and Technology Division where they said that 10% of Americans own a smartphone but do not have broadband at home, and 15% own a smartphone but say that they have a limited number of options for going online other than that cell phone. Those with relatively low income and educational attainment levels, younger adults and non-whites, are especially likely to be in this smartphone dependent for internet access situation. So why was this program ideal for a technology transition? We knew it was ready because it was already gamified. Maddie and her team had already taken the Summer Reading Challenge and turned it into a great paper-based game with the grids and the challenges and the activities. And then the developers agreed. We pitched our idea at eBay's Opportunity Hack in October of 2013, and it was selected for their hackathon. 80 employees and external developers listened to 20 representatives from nonprofits, pitched 24 ideas, and 20 of those were built and demoed that day. So now I'll hand it over to Maddie, who coordinated and developed the relationship with eBay, to talk about her experience at the hackathon.
Thanks, John. So the eBay Hackathon was a great opportunity for us to make connections with the tech community and learn about the process of working with developers. When we enrolled in the hackathon, we knew basically what we wanted to achieve, an online system, like John said, to engage more families in summer learning. So that brings us to our second tip. Know what you want to achieve and have a plan. The developers we were working with appreciated that we had a clear goal, and they agreed that the gamified structure of our summer reading program translated well into the digital environment. But the second part of this tip is understand partner strengths and limitations. Find out in advance what your partners can bring to the table, and this is something that we learned a lot from. In our case, we were working with developers who are very good at building code, but they weren't necessarily comfortable making decisions pertaining to design or user experience. We expected the hackathon developers to have more ideas about how to appify the program, but they expected us to tell them exactly what to build. Approaching them with a better understanding of their strengths and limitations, as well as a more clear vision of the design, would have saved time.
So, the hackathon was great. There was lots of energy. We saw the possibilities, but it was just 36 hours. And then what? They never actually committed to more, but they said there was a possibility to work with us more. But a hackathon does not an app make. Nor does it make a content management system, a public-facing website, a back-end for staff administration, an iOS or Android native app, etc. A hackathon gets you about 20% of the way down one of those paths at best. That was great, but then what? You need to know what to expect from these kinds of one-off events. Are you going to get a proof of concept, maybe a wireframe or a mock-up of one screen? Are you going to get a long-term commitment? And what will you do with the outcomes that you've agreed upon at the outset? So we were left without a firm commitment or a team or a roadmap or really a plan. So that brings us to tip number 3. Be proactive in finding partners. This is all about not waiting for opportunities, but rather looking for likely partners with the right shared interests. So you need to shop your pitch around. Tell people what you're working on and what you do have to offer, like a fully fleshed out idea, graphic design, IT support, project management, etc. Reach out to companies that have a corporate social responsibility department or corporate citizenship or talent partnership or time donation type programs. Talk about all your projects when you finally get them on the line. You may hit on something that they're really interested in, but I don't want to diverge there. I did stay on task and told them we really needed to get this app up and running by summertime. This was January when I first started working at San Jose Public Library. So you're telling your story, you're talking about the hackathon, and you also want to talk about what you really want to do with this. What would be your ideal? If you had all the time in the world and all the resources, we want to make it open source. We'd love to share it with other libraries and have them be able to use it. There just really isn't something like this out there on the market for libraries, and we know it's needed. That's why we decided to go down this road. So we were telling people, that's what we want to do. We want to go really big with this. Can you help us? We also looked at grant opportunities. Foundations have some great programs. You might find a prototype or a sprint grant that might be perfect for something like this. And it doesn't hurt to ask again. We went back and we said, hey, we're talking to some other people and they might be interested. This may be a motivator. They may even want the spotlight back on them. So that's what we did. We started out at eBay at the hackathon and didn't have a clear roadmap. So we went back to our Rolodex and looked at all the folks who had expressed an interest in working with us in the past on some kind of technology partnership, but we didn't have an opportunity for them at the time. So we went to Accenture, who does happen to be down the road. We had a great meeting with them. We brought our whole team of content experts and had a multi-hour session looking at what we'd really like to do from the ground up. It was a really great strategy session, and we've used a lot of the lessons we learned in that program in the months and years since. But in fact, it didn't turn out to be our silver bullet. We also explored an opportunity to work with IBM and Adobe. We applied for a talent matching program at Adobe, but alas, that didn't turn out either. So admittedly, we were starting to get a little bit worried, but we did like I said, and we talked to eBay again. We told them we were ready to go on this project. We know that the developers could see we had a good idea and a lot of the work already done. So this time they took up the challenge and they put a team on the project. So now I'm going to turn it over to Maddie, who's going to talk about managing implementation.
So thanks, John. I'd really like to focus with this slide on the key components for us in managing a successful long-term partnership with eBay. At this point, we've been partnering with them for almost 2 years. So these are some of the things that we've found to help our success. One is to have a team leader from each partner. So eBay had a team leader and the library had a team leader, and that really helped us with communication. We found that it's been really helpful to focus on relationships. So we value the individuals contributing to the partnership and show them our appreciation, even during rough patches, which of course happen in a 2-year partnership. One thing we did was work with the mayor's office to have the team recognized citywide. We provided simple things like summer reading t-shirts for them to wear. And I think one of the most important things is that in all of our communications with our partners, we used a strength-based approach. So we were constantly speaking in positive language and showing our appreciation, which was genuine. Communication, I mentioned before, but that was really important. We had challenges such as language barriers, completely different working hours and workflow expectations between the library and eBay, team members working in different locations. So some of the solutions we've developed over time have included things like monthly meetings, communication between the team leaders, and just recognizing the outside demands of the volunteer developers. We've also used a tool called Basecamp to help us manage our work. And the last thing is organizational support to see the project through to completion and implementation. So at the library, we needed long-term commitment from all areas of the organization, including our administration, our web team, our graphic designer and marketing, information technology. They provided browser updates, equipment upgrades, iPads and other devices for staff to demonstrate how to use the apps. We had a summer reading committee dedicated to the content, the implementation, and training. So tip number 4 is make a strong commitment to your partnership and your project. Nurture the partnership and align your internal resources to support and sustain it. And of course, there are challenges when it comes to sustainability of these partnerships.
That's right, Maddie. This is John again. One of the reasons why we've been trying to bring the idea of open sourcing this product into the conversation is because we know that if we can get the team to develop something that can be put out there with good documentation that anyone can pick up and run with, then we know we could run with it independently too. So we're not quite there yet, but it is something that we're thinking about in terms of trying to make this sustainable for the future. Now here's Jill to conclude.
So to review, we have 4 tips or solutions to the challenge of positioning your organization to be able to access community talent through partnering. First, understand your assets and those assets you most need. Second, know what you want to achieve and come into that conversation with a plan. Third, be proactive in finding and reaching out to partners. And lastly, make a strong commitment to nurturing the partnership and problem solving to ensure its success. We hope these tips and our experience might be helpful, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Jill and John and Maddie. I was particularly interested there in the idea of community assets doing an asset inventory themselves, so internal assets, and seeing themselves as having advantages that might be of benefit to business. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to pass over now to Harlan Hall, who is in Berrima, in sort of an hour and a half south of Sydney. So Harlan, over to you, please.
Thank you, Gareth. Leveraging community talent can be in many forms. In its simplest form, it is what we might call the snowball effect of community support for a community project. Our application of leveraging community talent is how a small country museum, managed and operated by volunteers, achieved the building of a new gallery, its fit-out, and a major exhibition. The Story Center, Berrima District Museum, collects historical objects relating to the history of the Berrima District, which is the historical name for an area now known as the Southern Highlands in New South Wales. The Southern Highlands comprises 22 towns and villages with a total population of 45,000 residents, covering an area of 2,700 square kilometers. It is located 90 minutes drive south of Sydney and a 2-hour drive north of the nation's capital, Canberra. The village of Berrima, where the museum is located, is a historic early settlement established in 1831 with a population of some 600 residents. It's one of the most historic Georgian towns on the mainland of Australia, and it was settled in 1831. Left to right, there are a lot of historic buildings that are used for shops. The river is the Wingecarribee River. The courthouse, one of the oldest pubs in Australia, still longest operating pubs, and a picture of the main street. Simply put, leveraging community talent is the process of inspiring others about your project, asking them to volunteer to help you, and when they do, asking them to reach out to others for their help. This is a simple process of leveraging used in business all of the time. The only difference is the reward for success is not profit, but of being a good corporate citizen, giving to the community. Who are we talking about? People in your community who have the skills and experience, when asked, will voluntarily contribute their support to your project. Their support can be in many forms, but basically it's their professional expertise and/or goods and services that your organization needs. And we ask these volunteers to reach out to their industry contacts and secure additional support. This is what we mean by leveraging community talent. The steps in leveraging community talent for us was to define the project as if we have the funds to pay for it, seek out the best consultants, tradespeople, and material suppliers, start with the consultants and ask for their support as volunteers. When each consultant comes on board as a volunteer, get them to help identify and leverage the trades and material suppliers needed for the project. You will need cash in the form of donations and/or grants. Seeking these funds can be made easier when you have secured your consultants. The best professionals demand the best outcome, so be prepared to set the bar high. With your professional consultant team, you will have the help you will need to solve problems as they arise. A team is far better than a committee. Few projects that are developed in an environment of uncertainty can be successful if the decision-making process is locked into monthly committee meetings. It's just too slow. The decision-making process is focused on outcomes. Not everyone can do this. If you can't, then your first task is to find someone who can. People who are experienced and successful in marketing and sales. People who can close a deal and ask for an order. These are people who can naturally inspire others and ask for help. Inspiration is the driving force behind any project. If you can inspire others, then they will help you. An uninspiring project will be a waste of your time and of others. If you are inspired about your project, then you need to be able to transmit your inspiration to others, usually through the medium of marketing. This is best characterized by what we might think of as a prospectus for an investment. We will be asking for help based on the inspiration our prospectus imparts to those we approach. The driving force behind our building project was the 100th anniversary of the landing at Gallipoli by the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps on the 25th of April, 1915. While training in Egypt, the name Anzac, formed by the acronym, has been commemorated each year as Anzac Day on the 25th of April. The Anzacs lost 8,000 men in Gallipoli and a further 18,000 were wounded. Two of the museum's volunteers, our archivist and our curator, spent hundreds of hours researching, writing, speaking to families who are descendants of the 1200 Southern Highlands Anzacs, borrowing objects from family members and from other institutions to develop and mount the exhibition. It was this Anzac Centenary exhibition that provided the inspiration and support to leverage community talent. This case study reveals how the museum used the process of leveraging community talent to build a new exhibition gallery, complete with fit-out, and our Anzac Centenary exhibition. We commenced the project in 2010 and finished in 2015. Our first corporate partner was our architect. With the architect plans, our next corporate partner was a quantity surveyor who costed the project at $500,000. We designed and built the project leveraging community talent. We asked everyone we approached to volunteer their time and expertise or make a major concession by discounting their fees. Our first step was to assemble a core team of professionals who we called our corporate partners. Our corporate partners collectively had the expertise and skills to deliver the project on time and on budget. We then leveraged our corporate partners by asking them to seek project support from other professionals and suppliers of goods and services needed to complete the project. We used the value of these donations in kind as collateral, along with cash donations, to raise grant funding from local, state, and federal governments. The corporate partners required for the project were an architect, quantity surveyor, building project manager, builders, exhibition designer, graphic designer, marketing manager, and technology consultants. The corporate partners contributed their services and then leveraged their support by asking their clients and businesses they are clients of to contribute goods and services. A total of 65 companies contributed to the project. The leveraging effect became a cascade of suppliers. The builder knew the electrician knew the electrical wholesaler knew the lighting manufacturer, and so on, with every company leveraging their contacts. It took from 2010 to 2014 to get to this point where the foundations were laid in July 2014. This 4-year period included design, local government approvals, and fundraising initiatives, including the process of leveraging community talent. These are a few pictures of the project under construction. These are the boards that show our sponsors, our 65 companies that donated to the project, and our corporate partners. Only one company out of 66 companies failed to respond positively to our ask for help, and this was probably due to our subcontractor not being more proactive. A month later, we were to lock up stage. A few weeks later, and a new gallery was finished. The building period was accelerated because we were using professional builders who donated their time and because we had secured in advance all of the materials and services from our community businesses. We opened the new gallery and exhibition on the 18th of April, on time, 1 week before the Anzac Centenary. This is the morning of our official opening on the 18th of April, 2015. These men represent the Light Horse Infantry. These are the Returned Servicemen League's Anzac Choir, Youth Choir. And these are guests inspecting the exhibition. A unique part of the exhibition is that it is also contained on a website so that visitors can continue their visit after they leave the museum. We call this aspect of the exhibition Cloud Stories. It allows us to expand the exhibition beyond the physical space of the gallery, providing many additional ways of viewing the exhibition that are not possible within fixed exhibition environment. In summary, the project met our budget estimates. But the results of our efforts show clearly that leveraging community talent contributed by far the highest return, accounting for 58% of the value of the project. Most importantly, we geared this value of $300,000 of in-kind donations to support 10 successful grant applications worth $185,000 in cash. While the smallest amount raised was $35,000 from community cash donations, these donors' support played a critical part in the leveraging of community talent by being recognized for their confidence in the project at its beginning, when risk is highest. I think you can also appreciate that our 5 years of hard work amounted to thousands of hours of dedicated volunteer time. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Harlan. It's interesting to see some commonalities between the two presentations about recognizing a need to be resourceful, about the importance of being proactive in making the ask, about offering recognition for volunteers and rewards for volunteers, and about sort of aiming high in terms of the nature of the project that you want to see. We've had a lot of questions coming in, so thanks for submitting those. I'll start with a question actually for both presenters, which is if a large grant from a foundation or a local authority had paid for the extension to the museum or the design of the app, so everything had just been paid for in one go, would you still prefer that? Would you prefer that to working with volunteers in terms of the two sort of options? So I'll throw that out to John and Maddie as Harlan spoke most recently. So John, Maddie, your thoughts on that question, please.
Being able to work with eBay led us down a path which allowed us to then have that conversation with other companies, which I don't think necessarily would have happened if we had a grant and we just sought to work with one contractor, for example. So being able to say we've worked with eBay, it was very successful. They had a lot of benefit from the opportunity to do this and get some exposure. We had a great benefit of getting a great idea to work and prototype and actually out there in the hands. And then also being able to talk to other companies, say, hey, would you like to do something similar with us? We've got another idea, we've got another project we're working on. So I think that is one of the unique benefits of having done that.
And just to add on to what John was saying, another thing about grant opportunities is that usually there is an end state to those. So you get your pot of money, you create your product, and sometimes you don't need to sustain it beyond that. But for an app, as you'll know, you're constantly having to update apps to keep them relevant. And so in this case, it really makes sense to establish a more long-term relationship with these pro bono developers so that we can constantly be upgrading our product.
Yeah.
And not depending on more grant funds every year.
Yeah. And Harlan, what's your response to that slightly mischievous question?
Working with the actual people on the project, they were all extremely excited about the project and they wanted to help wherever they could. And that was the most enjoyable part. For the future, we've got 65 consultants who are prepared to help again. We're already looking at new projects that we'd like to have done.
And what sort of projects are you talking about there in terms of moving forward? Because this obviously was very much a building project, but are there non-building projects?
The building now can take traveling exhibitions. So
Right.
We're looking at funding traveling exhibitions from other major museums. But the grant programs here they changed. They're sort of like fashion over the years. Currently, grant programs are supporting capital works projects. So probably 80% of the grants are looking for bricks and mortar projects, and that drives your focus of what kind of projects you might come up with.
Okay, thank you, Harlan. There's a question here for several questions really that for John and Maddie that all relate to the nature of the app, the Summer Reading Challenge app. Really, I think what the questions are all getting at is, can you sort of outline a little bit more about what the app looks like, what it does, and what its successes have been and what the challenges have been. So if you could just kind of outline a little bit more about the app, please.
The app itself, it does a couple of things. It helps families track daily reading. So we know through research that in order to prevent summer learning loss, young people should be reading on average about 20 minutes a day. So it helps families track that daily reading. And it also encourages experiential learning. So what that looks like in the app is a sort of a bingo game grid with different types of activities, and the activities differ a little bit depending on the age level of the participant. But a family can register together as one unit. We try to make it as simple as possible for families to participate together. They can engage in these different types of learning, track their daily reading, and then it notifies both staff and the customer when they have earned an incentive. So we have incentives like a book prize, various drawings that we do throughout the summer to make it fun and a rewarding experience. We've definitely seen an increase in usage because of these tech tools we've developed. eBay actually helped us create 3 different products. A website, and that includes a back-end database that staff, volunteers, administrators can use to track the progress of customers using the products. And then 2 apps, which are then connected back to that website. And we saw especially an increase in parent participation as a result of these products. Parents are much more likely to engage in the program if they have access to these technology tools. John mentioned the Pew study. I can't remember the exact numbers, but the large majority of Americans, at least, have access to mobile technology, and that's across all demographics, all economic levels, which has been very surprising. So that was one really important factor for us in starting this project. And then the language issue, we are a very multilingual city in San Jose. We have a lot of immigrants. We have a lot of just a wide variety of people living here, and we are always trying to accommodate for different languages. That's been a bit of a challenge for us, just because of time limitations, if nothing else. But the website does have a Google Translator widget, so that will translate. We've tried to make the website mobile friendly for families that do need to translate, even though we all know that Google Translator isn't a perfect solution. It is a solution. We've explored the idea of translating the app, and you'd have to create a totally separate app in order to do that. But we just didn't have the time. But it is something we are constantly having conversations about. And all of our participants also have the option of participating on paper, and we do translate the paper versions of the program.
Great. Thank you, Maddie. A couple of questions here, related questions that for Harlan about volunteers, so the volunteers doing tasks other than, say, the design and building work around the museum's extension. I think the questions really are asking what other tasks do volunteers do at the museum, and particularly sort of more skilled work, and how easy is it for small museums to find specialist volunteers generally?
Our museum is fully operated and managed by volunteers, and there's 2 sources of volunteers, or 2 areas of volunteers. One is people who just want to do something in the community to help the community. They have time. They would like to associate with others in a similar activity, and they like to meet people. Those people are best placed as our meet and greet volunteers at the desk, and we open the museum 5 days a week from Wednesday to Sunday, and that's one group. The other group are specialists who are like our archivists, our curators, graphic artists. Probably the most important position in any museum would be the graphic artist, because a museum's business is translating historical information and details to people through the medium of pictures and text and presentations. We're very privileged to have my wife Lynn, who's worked in museums for many years as a graphic artist, and so that's quite an easy task to have undertaken.
Yeah.
But the other areas of expertise is now we have these 65 consultants as contractors and and consultants themselves, we can always turn to them for help. So they become a team of volunteers by default with the project.
Yeah. And you mentioned an archivist, I think, in the presentation. I mean, is that
Yes.
an easy to acquire voluntary skill? Is it sort of something?
No, this archivist, she's been a researcher and writer for many years. She's written a number of historical books. She works on a team for the popular TV program, Who Do You Think You Are?
Yeah.
And so she has the ability to do a lot of research, knows how to do it, and has written all the stories for the various Anzacs that we present in the exhibition.
Yeah.
So the other thing I was going to say is that there's two ways of acquiring volunteers. One is just to take them as they put their hand up or as they become interested and walk in the door. But the other way is to specifically treat it as a job and to write a job application and even to advertise in the local paper for these kind of people. Because in many instances, there are people in the community who have the skills and would like to help, but they need to be asked.
And have you done that? Have you advertised in the local press?
We're doing that now.
Okay.
Yes, we're doing that now for someone who can submit grants.
Yeah.
Someone who would be good at writing grants would be a person who's been in business writing submissions and proposals and being successful at that. So those tasks become more easy for them when they become the volunteer to do the job.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
This is Maddie. May I jump in for a second?
Absolutely, please do.
I just want to agree with Harlan that it is important to treat these high-skilled volunteers sometimes almost like employees, and we didn't do that with the eBay developers. It was sort of a different relationship, but as a rule, we have a very large engaged volunteer program here at the San Jose Public Library, where we interview volunteer candidates. We look for volunteers to do certain skills and match high levels of expertise out in the community with particular needs that we have. We use a system called Volunteer Match to recruit. And so I very much agree that those things are important when you're looking for those high-level skills.
Thank you, Maddie. I think this next question is for San Jose as well about, please can you say a bit more about the Basecamp tool?
It's an off-the-shelf online project management tool. It's used a lot in the technology industry. It's pretty user-friendly. It's pretty easy to get started. I probably shouldn't shill for them too much, but just to say, we looked around a little bit. There are others out there. A lot of folks use Microsoft products, and there's the Microsoft project, both online and the hosted desktop application. We're looking at that as well because the city of San Jose uses Office 365 and some of the hosted productivity tools there. So we're looking at that as well. We're just sort of trying out, different project management tools. What we liked about, an online project management tool is that they can log in from eBay, we can log in from the library. It's supported, so if anyone has any technical difficulties, they can go right to the company, and we don't have to build a project management tool while we're building an app. We can sort of leave that to the experts. So that's what that's for, and we found it to be successful. We're using those kind of tools on other projects internally, with partners, with external partners.
Great, thanks, John. Harlan, you obviously had this enormous task of both raising volunteer time and funds all at the same time over a sustained period. I mean, did you have any special project management tools of any description?
You do have to have a schedule. I use Excel a lot. I keep track of the work. The dollars have to be kept track of.
Okay, thanks. A couple of questions for San Jose Library around the eBay partnership and sort of why did eBay decide to do this? Who gave it the green light, and did it develop their staff? So there's several questions in one row about the motivations of eBay and how it all came to pass on their angle. Could you say a little bit about that, please?
When we did go back to eBay, we were speaking with their corporate social responsibility department, and we were saying, we just sort of made the case again and said, we think this would be a really great project. We really think it would benefit both parties, but our research has shown that we've got about 20% of the way, and we need to go quite a bit further. We think this would be really valuable to all libraries. There's not really anything like it out in the market. Can you help us? And so I think that when we were able to sort of say it again to them and say, this wasn't just a flash in the pan for us, we're really passionate about it. We've got a whole team on our side, who's ready to go. And we've worked out, all the details really, like we say in the presentation now, we had worked out how the game should work. And that is kind of great for a project team. We can come with the quote unquote storyboards and the wireframes and the paper prototyping, because that was essentially our summer reading program the year before we had an app. We had done all of that work. Yeah. So we just kind of pitched it to them again, and I think it was at that point that the corporate social responsibility person was able to get buy-off from her supervisors and from the people who actually employ this team day to day at the company to make real applications for commerce, for business, for profit, for the bottom line, and to say, hey, we really want to put a team on this. We want to devote 20% of their time roughly or something like that to this project, and then we got that team, and we were lucky that they were really passionate library users. So especially the project lead, he came in and he said, my family uses the library all the time. We participate in summer reading. We really want this to happen. This is really cool. We're excited to be on it. So it was kind of that perfect storm, perfect mix, where they said, yes, we really want to be involved. And then we got a team that was like truly, genuinely had their hearts in it.
Okay, thanks, John. And a question for Harlan. What was your working relationship like with the volunteer museum board? Did they give you freedom and or support?
A lot of the members are senior members, and they become very risk adverse.
Yeah. So
you're constantly working in an environment where the people around you, you have to motivate them. You have to show results. Yeah. The best thing is to have money in the bank that you're able to raise through fundraising.
Okay, and there's one final question really, and again it's for you, Harlan, about whether did the museum project need insurance?
Yes, we did, because we had volunteers climbing up on the building and in working in higher than they have normal insurance when they're volunteers to work in the museum, but yeah. That's a defined area. But to have a project like this, yes, we found our insurers, our brokers found a policy for us, yeah, which cost $10,000, which covered everybody.
Okay, thanks very much, Harlan. I'm just conscious of the time now, so I'd just like to thank all of our presenters again, to Jill Bourne, to John Warona, and to Maddie Walton-Hadlock, all from San Jose Public Library, and also thanks to Harlan Hall from Berrima District Museum in Australia. Thank you to you for participating. Please tell people about the new barn raising approach and the webinars. Everything is on the newbarnraising.com website. So hopefully see you at some future webinars. Until then, thank you very much. Bye.